In your seat for 4 incredible ones. The first up pits the champion of DreamHack
好了，来了啊
ESL Masters SC2 Winter
刚刚好
Tournament. Clem from Team Liquid against Solar, our current GSL 2023 champion, and someone who's already claimed a trophy.
1553不是我1700了，我这个 MMR 主要是看 MMR 多少分，你看上面那个分没用。1700还不行，1700，现在比较强的都2000多了。第一场 Solar 对 Clem 赢的人去挑战 Zero 啊，淘汰赛啊，这个是兄弟们。第二场是 Dark 对 Skillloss， 第三场 Goofy 火对 BWin， 第四场 Q2 对小 Hero。
蛮准时，好吧，蛮准时，12点。
今天我们应该播不完，3个播5把差不多播。感谢藤原大师兄的一个飞机，感谢兄弟，
感谢兄弟。
风暴之门现在要改的东西还有很多，所以大家也不用上来就很着急说这个不好那个不好，他要改的东西，包括手感都还要改，我觉得太滑了，这个笔太滑了。
I mean, it was such an awesome time last time. I really just feel like this is such a fascinating.
这个水应该是 IEM 自己发的，不然的话不可能人手一瓶的。我看什么夜蝶、李飞来这种都人手一瓶。
对，就是发的吧，这个应该是。
顺便跟大家说一下，李飞来刚才打完比赛之后哭了啊，又哭了。
那输了很难过呀，那么哭怎么办呢？这都是青春的泪水，好吧？
说的没错，
妈眼泪只能洗却他的不甘，妈的肯定在后悔，中间有那么几盘，有那么几个小操作，几个决策的失误，比如说打 Clem 那一场，他妈的稍微一个小失误就葬送了自己，唉，电子竞技不相信眼泪，没办法，我说哭是对的，说明他想赢。只有明天回来了，擦干眼泪，继续练习。没有别的办法，要么进，要么退。妈，这就是电子
不能退，好吧？
如果你不想打了，你想退，大家也不会说什么，对吧？但是如果你还想赢，那就只能练，没有其他的捷径可以走。哭出来好受一点，是的呀。
A massive match and a great map to start off on. In the top left side, he is Solar. Representing Vitality.
好了，这场 TVZ 啊。Clem 最近状态不是很好，我感觉。
他那个小组也不能说状态好或者差吧，他那个小组能出现就不错了。
那倒是。哎，孙哥，我去拿个水，你说一下。
Clem 这个小组也算死亡之组了。Clem 倒不会退役，退役倒不是退役，只是说，就是就星期二就哪天没比赛他就退役了，基本上就这样子。毕竟其实他也不年轻了，老实说他年轻，其实现在他24岁了嘛。对吧？说他年轻也不对。
3 command centers and a whole lot of biomine parading across the map. It's his specialty, and I'd advise he do it here against Solar. I think you want to get in your element And, you know, it's interesting because Solar is just so rock solid on the defense. I actually think it's, stylistically, I think Clem's style is one of the best ways to take advantage. When I look at Maru, when he does well versus Solar, it's almost always off 3cc into just, you know, good multi-prong.
看了一眼，确认你是一个正常开啊，没有就没有慢狗开，所以他就直接可以去搞3矿了。啊，直接黄金矿啊，那么狠！这个是可莱姆没想到的。
Other than that, he's going to be very defensive, and you yourself can take advantage of that by being greedy.
Yeah, and that's something that Clem is very familiar with, even on this map. The Death talked about how it was kind of unfortunate that a Terran has to let it through, but you know what, as Terran...
啊，没有黄金矿，妈个鸡，他绕了一圈，我靠，6条狗。
But seriously, it seems like this is a map that generally Terrans don't want to play, so they do veto.
双方就开局还都很正常的常规的开局啊。克莱姆现在这种操作稍微能占点小便宜，但是这个小便宜影响不了战局。
Some really spectacular games on this map, forced to play it in many of his other best of 5 TVZs. Solar definitely getting a good start though with the map choice. Also, of course, going to the potential gold base with the drone. Actually ends up taking kind of the regular third base.
Starport and the second gas on the way, looking very standard for Clem, but he's not able to get scouting. And that's good that Solar right from the start is denying a lot of information of diving in the main base. If he is wanting to do an all-in, he can make it look identical to this. And then, of course, surprise with Lings flooding out or Roaches and Ravages.
子神一直在晃啊，这边一直在晃，在看你的这个有多少女王。狗数快好了，差不多，子神差不多可以走了啊！不，他不对，他是火车压上来。你这狗数没有第一时间好，这你还没有办法逼退他死。火车来了之后，你狗就没办法包了。多了这个女王补的，我靠，简直就是补的飞起。
Viking is popping out from that starport. It's not the Banshee play, and it's very rare nowadays for the Terrans to go.
真没几条狗，他就上来补了6条狗，其他都是女王。
Up the overlords, you do have that north side path with drops that can be abused. We used to call this close by air once upon a time, but it's never close by air, even at this stage, this map. And that first overlord is going to be victim to that Viking. Liberator harassment going to be added in as well. It is worth noting that their most recent best of 3 was won by Solar.
穿肯定穿不进去的。
Performances not being up to the
Solar 这个农民补的真的就打的有点偷。啊，2 BV 先2 BV， 先生狗的攻防。Solar 的这个到了中后期的组合基本上都是刺车狗毒爆，他没有太多变化。这套是他用的最好的战术。
Some fast pushers can take advantage of this. Generally, if the Terran does commit to a really committed, maybe 2 siege tank push, the late baneling speed really costs you. But against Clem, who very rarely does that, it's a great choice to start off. Clem's engineering bays are, of course, a little bit later, but Solar didn't have the money to start 1-1 straight away, so slightly mistiming his gas income.
Liberator is not... Oh, yeah, actually, I was pretty safe. I almost ran into the Spore Crawler range, but I was almost as perfect as it gets for deflecting.
5分半4矿，一点压力都没有。攻防好像没有提啊，现在提了，他是要一起提。
Against the Helllands, and we got ourselves a good old-fashioned TVZ macro game, and both players definitely highlights.
就女王站位，你火车1.8都没有。
Expansive map with a split down the middle, a lot of
看吧，看克莱姆7分钟第一拳出来能不能打到东西吧。Solar 大概现在有大概10个女王左右。这盘就是纯走基本功了。
That's the scary thing, and that's what, of course, puts a timer on Clem. It says, hey, if you just let Solar drone up and do what he wants to do, he's going to get ahead. So not only is it a big map where it's hard to finish off the opponent, naturally bad for Terran, you add to that this
6分半出门，7分钟到点。 还有个多线解放者，但这个部队没有坦克，所以说打不了阵地战。我们来看一下克莱姆第一视角。你就打点军坦阶级。这位置选择的还不错，把狗和女王隔开了，包过来我就走，也没有浪费雷达撒，也没有撒雷达去清军坦。好快啊，这切屏！这就是克莱姆的切屏吗？
Might be looking for a distraction. It's unlikely they'll get a lot more damage done, but then you have that plus the Hellions, maybe 2 different sections of Bio as well. Now pressuring Solar.
两线，我们看一下他这个两线怎么来处理啊？
来了，
边境军坦，
马克莱姆第一视角嘛，这是。
对啊，走，你的主力在这儿，我上面就能够过来压一下。
克莱姆第一视角好准。
火车侠，稍微散一散，火车侠，稍微散一散，对，散开。
他妈下面还在操作。哎妈，敢切屏，其实胆子挺大的，我说实话。
是啊。
哎呀，这就是操作吗？这他妈就是操作吗？我好烦，看的。
这个风暴之门起来，像克莱姆这种操作型的选手，你一点办法都没有。
他就2坨兵干你。
对啊，
这个他妈太丝滑了，感觉。学不了，这个真学不了。
Clem now ready to do a real push though as he takes his 4th base back at home, starts up 2-2, +2 armor, a decent amount late.
Clem's sinking right now. Solar's economy is crazy. He needs to get going and he needs that damage. This push needs to find them.
哦哟，这个都大到了！哦哟，哇靠！
哦哟，反手点掉。
这地雷，
索拉兵爆兵的也还不错。
对他其实就是赤者狗毒棒。
Clem is not going to find a lot of room to the top side or the bottom side of this map. His macro is still fine at home, of course, but Solar, man, he is really kicking into high gear. He's got his hive on the way, he's got a lurker den on the way, and he was dealing with these drops, looks to still be dealing with the drops very, very well. Spore Crawler is going to position itself to again help out against that.
看到第一次了，那这样的话，克莱姆应该要慢慢去转鬼兵了。
这张图主要也是有点大，不是很好的一个推。
这地雷一颗一颗埋，一颗颗埋。
他这个技术是真的好。地雷一起。
双线。
索拉兵还是多啊，索拉人口领先哦，到索拉这里。
但克莱姆一直在进攻啊，他现在很主动。
妈的，老子他妈的，你们这些弹幕不要讨论这些有的没的，好吧？他妈好好看比赛吧，大半夜的，有的没的，天天在这里。
军坦上点毒棒还是有压力的。永远在两线。
Solar has honestly been near flawless. This is insane. You're not meant to be anywhere near this clean against this level of aggression.
准备宰人呢，准备宰人呢！大过年的吵什么架呀
？Solar is famous for his ability to absorb and weather the storm in this matchup. He has practiced thousands of games against Maru. He's played him dozens of times in the last year alone in tournaments.
哎呦，再来，再甩！ 这他甩这个有肌肉记忆了已经。
妈的，这个Solar也有点猛啊，Solar真的有点猛啊，他防多线防的有点东西啊。
很好，Solar今天状态也是拉满的。感谢2012欧冠冠军的一个飞机感谢兄弟，
感谢兄弟啊！不愧是妈的已经到淘汰赛了。可以说前面 Clem 所有的多线Solar防的都很好。地雷
没买好，他身后雷那几颗没买好，买好一点，说不定Solar会中。刚刚，
哦哟，这个雷，
刚说完中了一颗。
But you're absolutely right. Clem is not in that really amazing position he likes to find himself in, where he already has 6 extra orbitals done.
Clem 还是没有收一拳的意思啊。
But we are getting to that point, and with a decent amount of ghosts already on the way, I'm really not as scared about this Lurker edition as I was previously. The Lurkers might still be a surprise as far as their positioning. They might be in a Nidus Worm later on. They could still do good work, but this would not be the first time we see Solar specifically over a lot of Lurkers against.
来不及了，变出来了，来不及了。Clem 也很凶，我这种图都能追着打。
我靠，直接重动第一次啊！这你妈！哎，这个有点难受啊，这个。这只能回救啊！这一波只
有够死，能解决。正面，看地雷估计炸不出来，直接秒了地雷背。终于崩了，Clem，终于崩了。
这个没办法，这个是
第一次给他压力太大了，刚刚。终于双线崩掉了。
Things are not looking good. Clem, the Nidus Worm, bringing back all of his ghosts and distracting him. That was exactly what Solar needed.
这你妈 Solar 这个 ZVT， 这黑肉马人怎么打得过他？我在想。
5K in the bank for Solar. He's got so many bases mining. He's remaxed and he's ready to push again.
He is still holding on to about a 5,000 resource loss. That is the expectation in this matchup, of course. But we're going to keep an eye on that as the game goes. As long as
Solar 还有一波钱呢，这盘 Clem 应该是没了。
这张图本身也很难打，这张图。
对，转折点其实就是那个虫洞地刺，
虫洞地刺一下把节奏抢回来了。
对。
As the Lings run in and find a planetary and a pack of bio ghost there ready for them. Looks like there's no spotting unit to keep putting Niduses in the main. That's going to give Clem a brief moment of calm. And notice he's building Vikings and Liberators right now. The Viking edition to try and take down the Vipers, something that Clem always mixes into the late game and sometimes has some great success with it.
Clem 现在要稳住，然后把防守布好，才有的打。
这里打不到，总感觉是打不了正面。哇，无所不在，从头第四。又是分双线。哇，这农民又滚完了。
但这个图接兵还是有点远，所以你也不可能一口气就直接把Clem接死。
Clem 现在62个农民还是能够确保他继续的爆兵的，他无所谓，
对吧？这张图其实也是你这个人族不好接兵，那虫族要摁死人族的时候也不好接兵，你也不可能一口气就摁得死。
无限的多线，我真的是日了。
举起来！两个人他妈不停的在多线啊，这对 Clem 的压力是非常大的，无限抗压。
因为对于 Solar 来说，他的另外一线就是 G11趴他就不管了，他就直接可以去操作正面。但 Clem 不行，Clem 两边都要管。
It was a very fine defense indeed. I also love that Clem was able to get the Caduceus reactor, so the medevac energy really should not be a problem, even though he's continuing to stim and run around as he defends against Solar's aggression.
That's 100% extra medevac energy regeneration, a fantastic late game upgrade. It's been added in the recent patch. New Nidus Worm going up in the back of the natural. Clem is showing his firefighting pedigree right now. He's put out fires all over the place. But another attack on the front.
主要正面压力太大了，现在克莱姆。
他不能有失误，一失误就 GG。他兵一个都不能乱送。
这 GG 没了。
And it's just so much damage for Clem. I think what's been really impressive is he's not just select all armying, he's kind of splitting himself and dealing with it.
这比赛没有复活赛啊，这是单淘。
正面。
现在这个比赛是单淘，就是谁输谁就没了。
波5反正输了就输了。
对 ，BO5 的单淘了已经打到。
野放者至少起来了。误一把拉开。
Great split as well from Clem as he will hold on to that gold base, which is now an orbital. So you can lift it, you can save the SCVs hopefully, but you can't rely on it on a back to defend back at home.
哇靠，Solar 也有点，就太快了，Solar 打的也有失误啊。刚才毒爆撞了这个岩石，
送了大概7、8个毒爆吧。
也有失误，很正常，这个失误很正常。
但克莱姆现在也是把兵分成2坨啊，各种防。Solar 这么冲下去，让克莱姆继续把矿开起来，其实 Solar 是有可能被耗死的。
现在只能说克莱姆
一定要一口气吃掉克莱姆的经济。
他把这个局面稳住了，稳住之后呢，基本上你这个多线虫洞就能防得住了。
电竞查不查兴奋剂啊？以前有比赛
查过吧？
现在不太
查过。
就 IEM 这些应该是不查的。以前那个叫什么比赛啊 ？WSG 就是查的。然后比如说你参加亚运会这种肯定是查的。有一些比赛会查，有一些比赛不查。
这第一把的嘛，这2个人都已经杀疯了，已经。
可不可以抽烟啊？那可以抽的呀，你不能在赛场抽呀。你们场间休息的时候，你可以去这个赛场外面休息的时候，你可以抽。场内不能抽。
哎呀，这2个兵好能打，Solar 现在没气。
Solar 感觉要被耗死了，打不进去了。这个就是我说的，这张图虫族有优势有劣势的地方。就它的优势就在于你人族接不死，太大了，你虫族怎么都运得起来200人口。但是劣势就在于，他妈正是因为这个地图大，所以你反推人族的时候，人族也有一个空间，你接兵也慢，那人族也有可能为首的起来。
飞蛇太多，得搞点感染虫。哇靠！
你接不死
来了，完了，飞全倒。
Solar 你接不死克莱姆，现在就是
完了，
对不对嘛？
没气了。
你200人口，你最多就冲开1层，你接不死。真的感觉要被耗死了，这个Solar没气了。Solar 完全没气了，现在是。虽然他气的收入还可以，
但他消耗的太大了，他刺蛇狗毒爆，这刺蛇和毒爆消耗的太厉害了。
感谢球奶，我龙年脱不了单的一个飞机感谢。
感谢兄弟啊！
He's still getting lings in the natural, but it just doesn't seem to phase Clem. At no point is he getting that panicked reaction that he's looking for.
Since that +3 armor was late, we haven't really had Clem making any big
ZVT 中猛冲猛打还是挺难的，你还是要配合感染冲什么的，一下抓人中主力。
对，一定要有感染冲，
就直接把人中主力吃光，你想想，你让他这样交换，你磨着，他 Ghost 就成型。
这个 Sailor 比他们这些重组打的更加成熟的一个地方。 顶级要塞，你这个怎么打得了啊？完了，顶级要塞也没打掉。这多线其实这盘Solar多线已经无处不在了。
At the same time as macroing perfectly. That was an inhuman piece of control. And guess what? Solar, that was his big push. He's out of bank now.
Yeah.
He's out of bank. He's down in supply. Solar has thrown everything he has at Clem. Clem has survived. He is over 20,000 resources more efficient. He has 7 or 8 orbitals. He's got a planetary up in the south that will not go down. Solar is continuing.
这种节奏，这盘应该是少有的这种节奏那么快的 TVZ， 打得非常的漂亮。
Yeah, absolutely spectacular display of TVZ from both parties, but it feels like Clem, since he dropped down low in supply very much earlier on in this game, he has actually found himself in this swing of things. How good he was against Cyril in Atlanta, and he's bringing
解放者起来你打不了了呀，你怎么冲啊刺蛇？
Rocky mid game, he is looking bulletproof in the late game, continuing to increase his lead in the resources trade, while also getting that ever important expansion up on the 6 o'clock. But Solar is relentless about attacking into this third base. He's going to try once again, but there is that army coming again from the south that Solar has to respect.
感染冲有没有一波神级的定嘛？哎，定的还可以，过来直接把鬼兵吃掉，悟一把，我靠，这一波其实
悟的还
可
以啊，但太多了吧？这个解放者有点，解放者没有架好，哎，可以秒几个解放者，他没架好，解放者
再秒。
解放者没有架好，被偷了，
还有2个。
这波Solar冲着这个时间把所有的钱全部花干。 那么能不能一口气把克莱姆吃了？
对，他一定要冲。
Yeah, I would love to see more Liberator harassment as he does have lib range. So yeah, you can actually outrange that score also on 6 o'clock for Solar, but we're not getting there quite yet. Obviously, Clem is trying to hold on relentless Solar. He was urgently microing clearly in that last battle, so like 6 or something Liberators pointed the wrong direction, at least 3 at the very least, which also impacted how well that looked for Solar.
感觉吃不掉呀，感觉有新要塞的防守，至少就你200打200的话，至少人数要多20人口这一个新要塞，那么硬。
Clem struggling to remax right now. Solar, he's up in between the rallies. Solar obviously doesn't have any extra resources to draw on either. So
被射手9搞惨了，Solar。
Brilliant though. This was so integral in Clem actually winning back in Atlanta against Cyril, against Solar, against all of them. It was how, when I'm stuck on the defense all game, can I exert a bit of counter pressure? And this is exactly it. My only fear is that's like 6 or 7 libs that are on harassment. He doesn't have them at home.
终于腾出手，把这个矿给打掉。
They will hold some of these chokes, just 1 or 2 of them very, very well, but when he's caught off guard, that is the different situation. Here, caught off guard, completely not able to defend that base, is going to be able to replace it, and in terms of the worker losses, it was actually a trade thanks to the offensive Liberators. Clem going to take a more forward position as he does prepare to take the base back. Liberators still completely denying mining from many locations. Almost a little bit, and Clem is actually the one who is remaxing faster. Solar
现在就这片矿的问题了呀，大家都没钱了。Solar 就冲吗？Solar 不能让他开这片矿。
你先想想办法把自己
感染冲在上面，感染冲在上面，感染冲，这个买地感染要出事了。
哎呦，
我操，他怎么被绕出来了？刚说要出事儿。 完了，Solar耗不动了，感觉
他已经孤注一掷了。
他这波买地感染没搞到，你妈的没了呀！
唯一一个感染被造出来了，
没了，他这埋地感染没搞到，他就很难打了。Ghost 其实血量不是很好，继续撅，没定住，
完全定不到，
完了，有点吃不了。克莱姆这波兵啊，索拉现在强秒基地，但这边有狙击，哇，狙了一排，感染虫过来，感染虫有能量吗？哎，
完了，
我操，这盘让克莱姆翻了，
那么好都输了，
这盘让克莱姆翻了。克莱姆真的妈的，这口气憋的，他也很兴奋啊，这盘翻的。这盘翻的真的牛逼！哎，我靠，上面
我靠，他怎么
卡了？刚才那个，刚才那个怎么卡了？
这盘也是少有的这个精彩的 JVT 啊，
跟这张图有点关系。感谢裘老，现在我学业不顺的一个飞机，感谢兄弟，
感谢兄弟，感谢裘老，现在我学业不顺的2个飞机，感谢兄弟。
A lot of players, would have been frustrated that they couldn't really break in and kill Clem with the early game that Solar had, because it was an advantaged early game for him. He was definitely a little ahead, but he actually gritted his teeth, spread.
我话说回来，这个 TVZ 的确比里边的要强，这有一说一啊。
But honestly, there is a pace that Clem set here. His ability to hold on and defend.
Clem 这个 TVZ 的确强，节奏也比里边要快一点，而且关键是他是很细打的，操作很好。
You'd see the exact 2 units that got hit, split from the packs, while spreading bio, while sniping units, while pulling SCVs away from banelings, and it's just this combination, this flow in the heat of that on your opponent's map pick. Absolutely impressed. I barely have words to describe how impressive Clem's form is after.
感谢求黄哥奶今年不能留用的一个飞机，感谢兄弟，
感谢兄弟。不能留用。
看第2盘，
现在小的地图就没那么好守了。小的地图Solar就不一定那么好守，这种节奏起飞的话，
他主要是中期那一波，他一定要守住 Clem 这个节奏起飞。
感谢这个什么兽人精的一个飞机，感谢兄弟，
感谢兄弟啊！
Going for an extractor trick.
Nothing like the old 15-15 against Terran. Get the 2 lings across the map potentially to try and delay the command center. Definitely get the queens out early to defend the Reaper. Always not a bad way to open up, but it's always interesting to see because every player has their own twist on how to follow it up. Some are just like, hey, you watch a Dark play and he's like, I'm going to take a 3rd hatchery and we're going to take gas at 4.5 minutes for the first time. And you're like, okay, that's insanely greedy. Solar's a bit more conservative. He likes to.
Solar 很喜欢慢狗开，我发现，就那不是说慢狗，就狗速很慢那种，刚开就狗速很慢那种开，就经济低位的开。
And I would be interested to see if he's going to open roaches because that's just so smooth off this opening.
Hard lead does seem to be a map for roaches. What comes to my mind is more of the 1-1 roach attack, but. Earlier one could be it. Also can be a map that is chosen by Clem a little more to low ground 2-racks.
兵营探路啊，这细节都还是做的。
And hasn't been so much on hard lead actually. So if that's what Solar was anticipating, that's not the case. It is a 1-rax expand. Also Clem going for an SCV scouts. Which does take away your economy a little bit.
看看这把 Clem 怎么压吧。
哎，反正7分钟对拳之后 ，Clem 会持续压制。
This SCV is now able to scout it, and then as a Terran player, yeah, absolutely, you could go ahead and say it's worth denying the hatchery too. Solar can take either one technically on this base, but then obviously he prefers one over the other. This Reaper is going to come in for the lings, not for that 3rd drone, which you could absolutely kill at this point.
Yeah, Zerglings can't turn into an extractor. It's kind of this funny thing in the meta at the very top these days where players are so good at doing spore tricks and extractor tricks. The players almost always...
Clem 应该还是 VF， 然后先3开。
Whereas I think for normal players, the drone is of course the higher value target, and players are more prone to make mistakes.
Solar 主要这个选手好像不太喜欢打这种蟑螂一波的这种打法，蟑螂狗一波的打法。
他就是吃了狗毒爆打到底的那种。感谢祝前女友未来一切顺利的一个飞机，感谢兄弟。
感谢兄弟啊！就说了这个打法，就会让 Clem 的开局会非常的舒服，就不需要考虑太多的一个前期的战术。
说了不太 rush， 说白了。
对，不像 Duck， 你们 Duck 这种狗逼，包括 Celo 你们现在也喜欢 rush。
仇恨什么仇什么怨？妈，说明他前女友伤害过他呀。
Is it Banshees? And again, considering how more often roaches can be played on hard lead, I feel like Banshees
有没有可能这个兄弟真心希望他前女友前途一片光明呢？
是的呀。
In a very stereotypical fashion for him, so now playing a little bit safe with the SCV scout with the Banshee opener, that's pretty good. And it's not like it can't do a good damage harassment either. It's just kind of unlikely.
Alien Reaper on the left, having a bit of a poke around. First Banshee has started up. Cloak will usually come in soon afterwards, as it does cost 100 gas. There we go, starting it. Very standard play for Clem. And I think he feels really confident here. You know, after game 1, you win their map. It just feels so good in these series, and suddenly takes away.
这盘是隐形女妖。
which feels like for years Clem was nearly unstoppable.
但3开还是开得很早。
The only thing that caught him out was that he felt like he had to win there because once lurkers came out,
小组第一是保送8强，说的没错。
小组赛已经结束了，现在已经是淘汰赛了，可以小组赛可以翻篇了。
火车女妖3开，慢慢打。
Where, you know, there's also Maru really leading the way as far as that late Supreme, late TVZ. So he was doing it. He was playing with it, but obviously his mid game was still the really terrorizing force. Now at this point, he's clearly on top of his game as game 1 played.
对啊，第一画质嘛。
Can be very scary with all the little pokes and prods and potential Hellion.
我反正看不惯这个画质，
我也觉得很难受。
And his late game is as obnoxious.
但打惯了可能也还好。
Even though it's not quite the same turtle aspect.
Definitely in that vein as we get Solar's first-person view. You can see his control groups on the bottom of the screen. 3 separate queen control groups. One of those is for injecting, and one is for defending the right, one is for defending the left. It's such a cool evolution.
这把 Solar 战术变了，先2本，然后2 BV， 先把这个2本好了之后啊，先毒爆的速度先点一下，
就标准开局嘛。
所以上一把，对。
标准
上一把有点偷啊！
标准9女王开。他女王编2个队，1、3，兵编到2队，4队是基地，4、5、6、7都是基地，4队是所有的基地。
也有2个全倒。
然后只要一打起来，就把所有女王编1队。
这样的话，这个局面其实Clem很亏啊，这个局面。2个女王啥都没打到。
我想画我们电流是吗？我们如果有电流声的话，你可以重新刷新一下自己的网页，然后呢，选右键看看你是不是 H265的编码。 你多选2个节点，看看能不能刷成 H264， 刷成 H264就没事了。H265有可能会有电流声，这是斗鱼的这个编码的问题。
标准7分钟出门。
听不懂，这你妈！你就右键，你右键你这个直播间，然后查看视频参考信息，然后进去看那个编码是 H264还是265，你就想办法把它变成 H264，你就没有电流声了。
那想什么办法呢？
就多刷2下呀，你多刷新2下，然后换2个节点。
Indeed, with the 4th command center on the way in the Widow Mines building, Clem here just looking to clear creep, bit of a skirmish. Solar keeps instantly replacing that creep. It's a lot of Lings, Banes, and Queens. Solar's having none of it. He has the numbers where he knows he can't be bullied here. He's like, come on, mate. I've got plenty of units. And he's got a 5th base up in the middle as well. Overlord speed on the way. Solar not showing a need to rush to hive. I have a feeling he may do a giant Lingbane hive.
手机啊，手机不太会有电子声。手机你就开那个什么软解码、硬件解码什么的，多开2下试试看，看哪个没有电流声就好了。你手机就换那个解码，硬解码、软解码。
现在军团全部给他清掉，跟上一盘一模一样，还是这个火车带地雷带枪兵，然后先骗
2个人都打基本攻对吧？标准的打基本攻的打法。也没放战术，就拼基本功。
哦哟，这个得，
这克雷好痛。
好了，侧面。这女王，你妈个鸡，真的能扛啊！这个女王。哎呦！这都点吗？这都点吗？我靠，全部点完，漂亮！
他你妈这个点的有点过了，我感觉。
关键他
是两个一点的，他是两个一点，
也在搞。
他不是一个点的，他是两个一点的。
对的，
不知道怎么做的。
There's some really awesome Baneling snipes going down, continuing the effectiveness of Clem's army trades.
不知道怎么做到两个一点。
这是 Clem 的绝技，好吧？
哎，其实说白了，你知道他怎么操作，你也做不出来。说白了，
对，
妈点一个都点的那么累，还点2个，你知道他怎么操作，可能你也做不到。
That is very unfortunate. Only +2 carapace. It is the more important upgrade.
不停的在双线，其实Solar每一盘守的都不错，这盘守的也很好。
但Solar军团有点扑不出去了已经。但你要考虑到这张图跟上张图有点不一样，就是Solar没有什么缓冲空间的。
他已经算是蛮能扑的这个军团。
Solar基本功也好，其实这已经打进了Solar的舒适区了，是不是嘛？Solar是比较喜欢跟你这么。就是跟你这么
有地雷
的散，哦呦，这个散的我你妈！
下面被换了，
下面被换家。
那边是个行要塞6点钟，双方
对捅了。
关键还有一线还在打
，2线在对捅，装了跑了，他2线都管得过来，你敢信？
这
有点吗？有点，我靠！哎，怎么那么快呀？哎，失误了，没操作过来，终于失误了，如果这个地方不失误，Solar已经死了。上面的防空也立功了，终于看到一个失误，
还在多线搞。
With the third being forced to lift, I definitely think they give Solar a slight advantage, but I'm not sure if it's as big as it could have been.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, both of them getting some blows in there.
他这打法能打几？你不要管，妈个鸡的，对不对？在最年轻的时候绽放自己，这不挺好的吗？
是呀，他妈老了再说呀，打不动自然有打不动的办法。年轻的时候你都不绽放自己，年轻的时候想着养老，那你妈的你还有啥意思？你妈的诸葛连弩连起来，多线节奏打起来，反正断手的也不是我。哇！
这妈的这感觉信手拈来啊，这个连的，
他妈什么角度都能连是吧？
走，漂亮！正面又切，他这个切兵切的好快，你明显可以看，就上面一打完他就切下来。
都怪帮你不升盾牌，你妈的！现在 Zero 你妈气的一批。
不，这个就从7分钟开始，他出门那一波开始就没停过，现在已经12分钟了。
好累啊！我看他打都觉得好累。现在看他打都很累，他妈的个鸡的！
但Solar打的也好啊，Solar
打得好，都打得好，对吧？水准很高，Solar的基本功也是拉满的。哇！
这个子弹，
你要想基本功差一点，已经早被他拉死了。
早就没了，这个肯定没了。你看Solar这个，
哎，
这个节
啊，管过来了。这边又来了，有，哎呦，还好，
好像上面这个全倒了，这个位置还藏不了运气，
藏不了。啊，这样的话缓过来了，Solar缓过来了，Solar这把感觉要赢啊，缓过来了。他妈，我不信克莱姆这把的赢。讲道理，我觉得讲道理，我觉得这个Solar应该要赢这把。
上一排那个虫洞第一次进家的时候，我也觉得Solar应该赢。
啊，Solar你别他妈我说完你就停止进攻了呀！我说完他怎么就停止进攻了？
稍微缓一缓呀，他在开矿呀，你慌什么？要打这波要打，直接冲飞3矿。捂一把，捂了2把，其实拉开，继续把毒爆耗完你吃的只能走。
I do love the almost instant transition or addition, whichever you want to call it, of the lurkers, because the ghost count still isn't amazing, but we're producing 4 at a time, so it's very quickly going to get there. Lovely idea if you could do it instantaneously, but not actually the case. But there is a cheeky Nidus from potential.
又是解放者，就打到这个阶段，我发现全部会转解放者。地雷有没有？3还可以。
This is crazy right now. It feels like Solar needs to get damage done. He does take out a little bit of
也没打多少东西，又是虫洞第4。
啊，进去了，这一波怎么处理啊？
这个
处理不了吧？
厉害了，这个厉害了。
这一波处理不了吧？这个有点太多了。
没道理处理得了的呀。
他也乱了，Ghost 全送，乱了。乱了。
这个乱是应该的呀。你这边压力那么大，你凭什么家里面被虫洞搞了，你还不乱吗？
to take happen, but now it's even then some. The loss of the ghost, the loss of the production, continued chaos as he still
对面推掉，
对不对嘛？
赢了呀，Solar，我就跟你们说这把Solar赢了。
还是要靠虫洞第4打开局面啊。
Thinking about all those extra upgrades you were talking about, like building armor and things, he's just getting hit so hard. He doesn't have a chance to get there. He's only got 5 orbitals. He needs more than that to be playing at this stage of the game, because every scan he uses to see where the army is or to spot the lurkers, that's less income. So that normal Terran income advantage you're used to, it just does not exist here. Right now, Solar is keeping Clem in a dirty stage of the game that Terran does not like to hang in.
没带的太多，
没用了，这个
毒爆已经点不过来了，毒爆太多了。
虽然他操作的确是很好，但是没用啊。
这个跟操作已经没有关系了，好吧？
orbitals and command centers that did put Clem in a comfortable position last game. But this is kind of like mirroring that last game as far as the tempo, right? Solar had a really great resource trade up until a certain point. He had the potential to overwhelm Clem before he got to those massive amount of command centers up until a certain point. And Clem basically held on stubbornly. And then it really flipped. So now the question is, can Solar actually
哎，买地感染有没有？
or is he gonna keep on living?
这波要
有没有说法？我想问一句，
这波只要有说法，直接就没了。
出事儿，出
大事儿，一把电出大事儿，机器。这个埋地感染直接出大事儿。Solar 基本功真的很好。 就暴兵什么的都爆得出来。
他妈能防得住刚才那种多线，我就觉得基本功就无敌，好吧
？1-1，克莱姆也感受到压力了。
This was a huge mistake for Clem. Those Widow
这个地方操作有点好，我说实话。
Even though he killed a lot of Banelings, he loses quite a lot of Marines. I think it's the Widow Mines losing momentum there. And from there, even though he got some good counter damage, Solar was all over that third for the rest of this.
就这个地方好像失误了一个地方，送了一波机枪。
And he just kept making it lift over and over. This was such a good decisive finishing blow. A minute or two before this, before that Nidus got in the main, I was actually looking at it going, man, Solar, like he's got to find a way in because he's almost out of time. And just on cue, he ran into the third, got a good little skirmish, popped a Nidus in the back, kept attacking the third, and already having the Infestors in here at the finishing, that's really nice. It feels like going from oh my lord, I lost my own map, how am I going to win this series, to destroying him on the Terran map. It's a match made in heaven. I really do feel Solar may be the best Zerg in the world when it comes to facing Clem right now.
这两把打完，我觉得他们两个应该都挺累的。应该都挺累的，这两个比有点激烈打的。主办方给他们休息一段时间，这是对的。妈个，这种不休息，再硬干的话，人都傻了，好吧？
Hey, I'm Clem, and I'm here today with Oliveira.
Hello, Aaron.
And we're gonna be spinning that wheel, I believe.
Maybe I first.
You first? Okay, you start. You know, taste to this?
Yeah, I know, but I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know.
你现在什么采访啊？我看看，开大声点。
Alright, let's do it.
互相欣赏。
I got the same one. Who is? Is it the guy? Okay, I'm not sure about it. Is it the guy from Harsim's video that got like gem with only cyclones? Is it this guy? Or am I mistaken? If it's not him, then I have no idea who it is. Oh, really? Okay, then I was completely wrong. Okay.
So we're sim, right?
Yeah, we both lost. We both lost. Okay.
No. What?
Alright, my turn.
呀，怎么卡住了？
这是什么意思？Jim Raynor is the main guy. Nice, that was an easy one. Alright, you go.
I will do.
Yeah.
他们有转问题是吧？
Oh.
Alpha Star.
Nice.
Easy question.
Alright.
我靠，牛哥哥还竟然能够知道 Alpha Star。
Oh no.
Okay, I think it's difficult.
I was dreading that one. I believe it is in the US, United States. Nice. Okay, well, I believe I won 2-1.
Yeah.
That was spinning the wheel
听不
with
懂啊，
Clem and
这
Oliveira.
个我
Yeah,
们
I'm happy
文
to
化
do
有
it,
限。
and I hope this time match can play a good match.
没了。
And we're back.
就问一些问题嘛，就跟我们那个答题王差不多。
After that last match, we saw him kind of push himself up out of the chair. I always love seeing a player where you can tell they're so
心技专业。 伯克利，有可能有的呀，有可能。我也听不懂，因为我们那个英文都挺差的。这是我人生比较遗憾的一件事情，就是英语没有学好。
所以我记得你以前说过什么，只要有你那个什么东西来着？
有那个翻译的东西是吧？
对啊，
还没做，他还没弄出来呢，不知道呢。不是，这个是属于比较遗憾的一件事情，就是英语没有学好，英语要好一点，是不是在解说的时候也可以多很多有趣的事情可以知道？
你说的没有错。
英语是差了一些。其实主要是我们那个词汇量不行。如果词汇量大一点，其实大概你也知道他说的什么意思。什么时候学都不晚。妈了个鸡！我们这个年纪了，
说你们说的很对，
但是我们两个是两个懒逼啊。
对，这个倒是。你们说的非常正确，没有问题。
学英语是不是就是他妈的现在就猛背单词嘛？
那你学英语只能猛背单词啊？
先把单词背了。
你还有其他办法吗？
词汇量上去了，他妈的怎么都还能混。
对啊。
And then subsequent Katowice also not really doing as well as he expected at all, sometimes narrowly missing out like last year. This time he's in the round of 12, you know, for the first time ever.
不，学英语就只能靠基因背的。
那肯定还是有点技巧的。
Meanwhile, Solar is on the opposite side.
你只要死记硬背，你绝壁学得好，我就觉得。
那肯定还是要点技巧的，我操。
Inconsistency at this tournament, only to one other guy.
这东西问某某。
And it is Dark who is still in the tournament.
I feel like Solar's results, they're not as deep as you'd expect with how well he plays.
然后你每天把自己融入到这个环境里，你们要没事就看那种英语的那种什么电影啊什么的那种，你就平时也用英语多想想对话什么的，估计就搞着就会好很多。
Has held Solar back, but as long as he doesn't face Maru, I think Solar is almost always like a very heavy favorite to make it all the way.
The only other person who gives him trouble at this tournament is, in fact, Dark. If it wasn't for that guy, Solar would be like the farthest advancing consistently player in the tournament. Now he doesn't really have to worry about that. If he does defeat Clem, he's facing Cyril.
我放国外一段时间就学会了。
Promising competitor to Cyril in ZVZ. A little bit of
那肯定的，你他妈的到国外去。妈的，住着他妈的，你不会他妈也得会啊！
这倒是。
But I tell you, I mean, he's more fierce than a dingo that's been hungry for a few days. That Reaper of Clem gets in there, just destroys the creep tumor, even when it's fully guarded. He's so.
你看那个讲师都会，对不对？妈过去讨饭，讨着英语都会了。
Some heads up, good time.
Fantastic red doggo from Australia.
妈，这是生存的技能，好吧
？Super cute, but definitely don't pet them. I might have been tempted at a wilderness zoo, you know.
Hey, Americans getting their fingers bitten off.
这把其实挺关键的，对双方来说，这把谁输了谁可能就泄气了。
Don't reach over the fence.
对。
Oh look, it's a cute emu. It's a 2-meter tall dinosaur. Let's just give it a pat.
Actually, they did allow us to pet that.
Oh, well, we're.
说了这个战。
讲师是不是就只会这句啊
？It is literally a dinosaur.
They're so scary.
Yes, they are. But anyway, meanwhile in this game, another Hellion Banshee opener from Clem.
所以打说了这种开局，其实两兵死神比较好。他3矿开的其实挺快的，两兵死神你4、5个死神把3矿压掉。
So this actually could have been much worse if these were still slow links.
Yeah, he was looking for the link speed here.
来送2个火车。不赚哦，哎，不过狗耗光了也还行。说实话也还行，狗耗光了。
那也就这样吧。这种交换重铸绝对不会觉得亏的，好吧？他绝对会认为自己赚了。真的让你引进女二了。刚才他们前面2盘这种节奏，我觉得啊，最多2个人最多进行个3到4盘，不可能5盘都这种节奏，会死的。这时候考验就是一个选手的专注度了。
就是说Solar稍微吃亏一点，首先年纪也大一些，然后第二个时差上也吃点亏。毕竟到那边去了，他还是2、3天是很难把时差调过来的。对他来说，已经韩国晚上2点了。
But Solar, I love his choice to go for the Baneling Nest rather than the double Evo chain, but that's going to allow him to get a quick Baneling speed. He will get the double upgrades, probably closer to the 6.5 minute mark rather than the 5.5 minute mark.
Solar pretty supply blocked actually. 90 out of 90, and he's 2 of others is still over halfway done. So, I mean, just kind of pointing out the Hellion harassment's being annoying, and it almost got that drone. Almost. Fortunately, hatcheries are very sturdy. Last game did start off rather poorly for Clem, if we recall, even though it seemed like he was bringing it back.
防得非常好啊。
With both Banshees dying, which
往里面想切也切不进去。
Especially because they really didn't do anything besides die.
He's got 1 drone and 1 transfuse, so no real damage to be spoken of, but he keeps them alive, which is much more important. We've seen that Clem doesn't necessarily need to race to the finish line. He's a player who thrives on momentum, so it's not like it's really in his nature to just sit back, but he definitely doesn't need to feel an overwhelming pressure to put Solar.
马上7分钟啊，7分钟又要开始了。
吹风吹起来啊！
对，这盘是稍微有些区别啊，哎呦。 这边可能带的是坦克。
But seriously, having at least 1 really is a massive difference. Having that still at the 3rd base to help out against Baneling run bys, but also Lings, and then also as spotters.
Solar 还是有的，把都差不多他们打，但这把 Clem 走的是坦克了。
但我觉得 Clem 还是没有机会啊，弩包速度过去就好了。
This with a tank wants to actually get up to one of these ridges, be really annoying, and now in Solaris, it's absolutely this one we're seeing here from the observer. Yep, this is very annoying. Actually, kind of a conservative place, but also outside of creep.
Yeah, this is a very common move on this map. We've seen Maru use this a lot recently. Solar is ready for Bane on the top right. He's going to come through the speed zone to flank this.
孙哥，明天我可能要晚点的，明天我要去下午要去金山吃个饭，我吃完饭赶回来。这克莱姆被包傻了呀！
投主矿，
这2个防空其实还挺精髓的。哎，点了一船，克莱姆没算好这个。按道理来说，这个应该不会掉的这2分兵，现在掉一船。
我只能说有点不太怎么说呢，感觉有点亏。Solar已经5炮都开起来了。
我明天我这个要去金山吃个饭嘛，他这个过年嘛，总要去吃个饭。我吃了就坐车就回来，我下午睡了起来过去。
It feels like breaking out of that is something you'd want to have more urgency for, but I know Solar as a player, he's just going to keep doing it.
你总不能过个年他妈的
And he'll bide his time and he'll wait
完全不去的。
and it'll be much later than we think it would be. But once he sees that opening, he'll take it.
哎呦，
但没炸好，没炸好。
感觉怎么可能要崩啊？
我就感觉他要炸了。
要崩啊！
这Solar今天状态很好。
你妈的，不管是Clem还是Solar，上去打Zero 都要跪啊，感觉。
Zero 又不怕Solar，Zero 什么
妈的 ，Zero 杀手好吗？Solar
最近 Solar 都没怎么赢过 Zero。
那是因为没有到线下赛。
Yeah, I have to apologize. I literally told him in Atlanta as he sat down to talk to me prior to his first series versus Solar.
自贡我今年没有回去啊，今年那个我娃太小了，等他再大一点。
Don't forget +2 armor because Beyond does it all the time, and I feel like since then he's forgotten his +2 armor every single time.
最好是让你爸妈来上海。
我爸妈来了呀，我爸妈在上海。
哇，
这2颗雷是大到的。
再往里逃，但没用，已经防了。
Yeah, the turbo is already done, so maybe wait a while.
Indeed, he's in a position where he can strike 3 different locations, but he's got to be careful of the Hydras that are now out. Clem forced back into the dead space.
又是一个双血。
North is going to divert a lot of Solar's resources up here. Solar has to stay calm, split his army very well. Solar's got a bit of that bank.
妈，这赢得有点好啊，今天这赢得有点好，几乎可以说没怎么中过。
Splitting off Lings and Banes and really just pushing Clem far out of his territory. Clem's going to dive the main. This is what happens. You push Clem back on one side. You know you're going to force him to dive on the other side. And there he is on the Lings, but they're not being very active right now. The Lings on their own cannot defend it. He needs the slower Banelings and Hydras to get up here. Clem's just going to
连住个连弩！
哇！
我靠，全点！
这个是不是夸张了？这个夸张了，被打爆了，这个等于。
后续来了，后续来了，
还好。真的有点夸张啊，刚刚那下。
This is the sort of stressful, tiring, back and forth macro Zerg versus Terran that is going to really put these players to their limits. Yeah, this has absolutely been tested by both of them. This map gives such great extended TVZs. Clem still has a drop on the bottom side, but that medevac almost gets targeted down. Not quite. Speaking of, 2 medevacs on the top side almost get taken down. Not quite. Actually, many medevacs injured up there.
真的很能打这两个。
adding on the command centers, as you said.
啊，看都觉得很累，还不要说打。 这种快节奏，你妈已经打了那么多盘，也就是用 shift 点的。
Indeed, very impressive upgrading from Solar. Does manage to start closing that gap. Adapter Talons is almost there. So much infrastructure.
也就这2个字，他妈说的也太轻松了。
Zerg always wants to get rid of that if they can. For now, though, the trading has gone from almost dead even at the start of this game to much better for Terran. We'll see if that continues.
哎呦，这个雷，立功了15个单位。
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. And Clem is now microing.
哎，我发现Solar线下赛的时候比线上强好多啊！
这不是专注，
最近状态真的有点好，专注度也很强。
to the pickup, but does save a lot of the expensive units. Once again, forced to retreat back into the defensive setup while unloading, but a planetary in SimCity once again helping out tremendously there. So not feeling comfortable actually pushing forward from that point. Not quite comfortable overall, perhaps, although his bank now is growing to that comfort point. I wouldn't be surprised if next time Clem is forced to evacuate like that. Solar does go for the attack, and now we have the top left under.
又到了那个转解放者的时间了。
But that's not the worst thing for Solar to lose.
Yeah, I mean, it's good value for Clem. It's nice value, but it's not like you're doing a crippling blow. This is just shaving away at your opponent, which, to be fair, is most of Clem's game plan. Small skirmish, take a good trade. Small skirmish, take a good trade.
他们来把这种各种搞。
Drops. Oh gosh.
哎！
Ducks would have been a better choice there. Solar falling back on his muscle memory lets 3 full medevacs escape. Bit of a missed opportunity.
Yeah, and generally I am going to be keeping track of the legitimate medevac kills. Like a lot of near misses for them, which again did influence a little bit of that.
又是上几把的这个局面呢，又打成这样。我估计 Clem 也感受到 Solar 有点刚了。
这个基地还是要掉啊。
掉了再飞下来呀，继续踩啊！
5,000 resource lost advantage, a good 50% better on the trading. Fantastically done there by Clem. But of course, Solar still has more bank. Zerg naturally
感受到了刚的一批。
Terran has a better end game than Zerg, I would argue, though. there are cases with guys like Serral that sometimes turn that upside down, but it costs a lot more to get there. And there's so much time in this early late game for Zerg to just swarm over and deny bases over and over, and that's exactly what Solar's looking to do. He doesn't want to let those building armor upgrades. He doesn't want to let 10 command centers get built. The Widow Mines on that front line looking at fire. They just are not firing. They keep changing targets.
Yeah, that wasn't it. So it's potentially juicy. Doesn't hit anything at all. Now forced to completely evacuate from
强行拱进去。
canceling another command center, but now using the ones that are.
克莱姆挡得好累呀，有点挡不住索拉了。
但是上面还有虫洞，应该解决掉了。他们虫洞，哎，也没，
他忙不过来了，他已经忙不过来了。让开，我要干塞肉。
I don't even know if there was enough Terran to take the fight, but definitely Solar says, I'm not going to gamble. I'm just going to pull back from there, wait for more Banelings. There's no reason to fight. His Lings are doing so much damage. Clem, he's letting the Chaos get to him a little bit here. This style, this Bio Ghost style, it's all about maintaining control in hectic situations. You cannot let yourself get frazzled, but it seems like Solar right now is just sticking his head in the washing machine. He's putting him in a blender right now. You can tell Clem's getting shaken.
Yeah, he's making big mistakes.
下面也掉了基地，
妈的各种的在打多线。
主要现在克莱姆是经济收入有问题，他已经经济有点炸了。
对，
索拉现在3个箭头，你看收入，索拉的现在钱多的要死，
钱多气多都是索拉，
索拉就一直换就好了。现在对克莱姆来说，他很难打出一个超大战术。哇，上面有船，克莱姆炸了，克莱姆要炸了，索拉节奏太快了，这几下。 要炸了！完了！出事了！这波打完，克莱姆没钱了。没了！45个农民，48个崩了。克莱姆不可能再续得出兵了，索拉可以一瞬间再爆到200人口继续冲。炸了！
他主要续不出解放者了，没有经济了。
Clem absolutely in a disastrous state. Really has to hope for a miracle here.
对吧？现在要不停冲啊，不能让你把矿开起来，把解放者
已经索拉不会给他机会了。
So busy putting his foot on the gas that he starts to make huge mistakes against Widow Mines and Liberators, and I just don't see that happening. Solar's late game was almost pristine. Clem's is a little bit more in the first game, but now Solar has everything going for him. So why would he mess up now?
I feel like that ledge just to the north of the purple gas base has been such a problem. It's really split up his ability to deal with it. Finally, some counter pressure gets in there with the Widow Mine drop finding 9 drones. That's what's been missing this whole time.
雷达都撒不起了吧？
没雷达的都，对
啊，我觉得雷达他都撒不起。
干冲，哎，这个干冲，
定住就可以退了。
Now it's going to cost scans to make sure that you're protected. In multiple
好
scans.
了，看你这边没兵，直接来吃了。
有没有一把定？
他感染虫没有绕啊，没有绕。
撒雷达了，
但无所谓。
他想的是下面
打不了。
下面有狗，他想的是你肯定会撒雷达的，没必要在这个地方。哎呦，定了一把，但是没有定好。
无所谓了呀，已经无所谓了。
其实他 A 也就 A 了。
对呀 ，A 上去感染虫一定GG。
干冲有没有？
他在等。
回头啊！
他应该是在等一波毒爆过来，直接给他包了。这定住就GG了。
来了，干冲一把定，还有一把定，完了。
切了，3切雷，3切克莱，这波定完没了呀！GG，我靠，索拉好刚啊，打的，
好强啊，索拉！
这不得给他整个野兵营？
克莱姆并不会野兵。
and right. These other two maps have really had a lot more like
Solar 什么时候那么强了
？Solar 状态有点好。
Problems and Solar's aggression that didn't quite work out in Game 1 has worked out beautifully for Game 2.
河马这个含金量有点高啊。
Adding in faster shark festers too, which I really enjoy.
谁才是真正的第一梯？河马。
Yeah, apparently not.
Should have just played all the Zerg maps. No, this is of course Solar's pick, and I really do feel that even though Clem did really well, the purple base, there's that cliff above it, and it felt like because Solar had such good creep in the middle, Clem kept struggling to defend here and get to like the north of the base, and he was kind of getting caught rotating north and south. And then every time, whenever Clem got defended on the south,
这个时候克莱姆应该是很累的，妈个鸡的，劣势的，然后打的本来就累。
The Banelings finding their way in. Festa was really just there for good measure. It was already pretty much done at that point.
Yeah, it really was. We also, I think a lot of the time, see most Terrans, and sometimes Clem, sometimes not, as seen here, most of them would have at least 1 or 2 tanks, and then that ledge behind the Rich Vespian Geyser base is really obnoxious. It doesn't hold all forms of Zerg attacks, but it is always there, and that just didn't occur there either, because the tanks that he did build were traded out earlier on, didn't want to add any more as he headed into what was supposed to be still a very back and forth, very action-packed game. But once again, Solar's aggression is just too freaking consistent. Once he opens up a little bit of a problem for Clem, then he adds on a few more small problems, and then a big problem, which is actually usually how you would describe a Terran winning. First it's the drops, the Hellions maybe first, then the drops, then another drop, then another drop, and then boom, suddenly the 2-2 attack, you know? But Solar's the one doing it and actually getting the completion as well, getting that GG from Clem, and now being 1 map away from moving on to the round of 8.
Solar's already in the lobby, eagerly saying, go, go, ready, 1A, 2A, 3A. And of course, the admins there just saying, hold on a sec, he's just Clem's in the replay. He'll be in a moment, he'll be starting that next game. But that's what you need, is a moment to check what
不好弄啊，克莱姆。这个时候妈的喝水不是件好事情，喝太多水反应会变慢。
2 to 1, I only need 1 more. But the next map will be Sight Delta. A map that we rarely see in this matchup, actually. I feel like we don't see that much Zerg vs Terran here, but now that we get to the big best-of-5 series, we're going to start seeing it more and more.
Let's see if Clem can bring it back to a 2-2. Both players still playing amazing TVZ, but this man in the bottom right has fallen to his last life. Give him your energy, guys. Get those cheers going for the bottom right Terran, Team Liquid's Clem.
Some beautiful art there as well, supporting the players. But this man is going to be in such a good position. His mentality is looking great. He looked really composed in his seat. Let's see if he can finish off this series on Sight Delta. In the top left side, the best defensive macro Zerg in the world. It is.
我觉得克莱姆有点泄气了，有可能。
看这把。
I should say specifically Zerg.
对吧？就感觉有点泄气。
泄气。
I feel like Serral and stuff maybe a bit better at just purely defending than Solar. He's a very attacking Zerg when he's not playing against Terran. Against Zerg and Protoss, in your face timing attacks that are some of the sharpest in the game. But
我换个麦，我这个麦可能马上没电。
He's so solid, and the fact that he's going toe to toe with these. What do we call it? A tug of war with Clem? It's basically a non-stop mechanical battle for a good 5, 10, 15 minutes. It's very impressive that he's weathering that storm. And I wonder if endurance starts to come in for either of these players. If one of them starts to get worn down after all of these long games.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Solar 这个打法，Solar 也变了，因为这个图的原因，所以他是第一时间计划下去那3分半的狗数。这个图的原因，所以他才这么打。这个地图的确跳死的比较好跳。
I'm not sure I can, always keep up, so I start to rely on my brain, my strategies more often, and that works too. But Solar really looking like he can match the speed and precision of his
其实现在不是开局的问题，而是中期克莱姆的这个多线打不到Solar东西，
顶不死Solar。
现在是这个问题。
Or more importantly, adding some confusion to the early game. When you see a 1-Rex expand from Clem, it's almost always 3CC basically. But the 2-Rex, I mean, generally it's going to be 3CC honestly from Clem, but it's still more obscured. You don't know if it's 3-4 racks. He's taking some inspiration from Bjorn. Bjorn's whispering in his ear, 4X. You don't know. So that might be something that
那状态还可以啊，这个狗操作。
Definitely interesting to see what he can get done here so far.
6条狗应该不会死。
The queen pops out, deflects the reaper.
咱们反正也是跳死神开矿。
Between his bases usually to defend this, but with such a fast link speed, I don't know if he needs to. We'll of course keep our eyes on how he deflects this. The drone has hidden up north, so he's ready to take a third base when he feels it's safe to do so. With such a quick link speed, I feel like it's not a particularly difficult defense of these Reapers.
Oh, I was going to say, especially if one goes down.
也没什么机会。
The queens were not quite in position.
索拉应该是先等狗说好了再开3基地，他就有一点怕对方接5死神，然后开3基地直接给他点，他也很烦。还不如先爆狗再开。
他正面有房，他这边是有房子看着的，看到这个双倍和科技挂件下去，应该就没问题。
More aggression very, very earlier on, but then into the Hellions, at least I personally hope it's right into Hellions. Clem has been kind of the poster child for me of doing that Cyclone edition and then not having it work at all. So yeah, it's Hellions. The Reaper's trying to escape, and maybe 1 or 2 might survive. Oh, the jukes! That was very nice.
Reaper's picking off a few Zerglings, all escaping with their lives. And Clem looking rather nice so far. Stim and Hellion production on the way, as you pointed out. The starport beginning behind that. Solar has been purely mineral focused. You know, I was thinking we're about due for a Baneling bust. You know, I was actually worried about the low ground barracks because I was like, hey, it's Solar. Give him any excuse to all in. He usually does one in the best of 5.
Yeah.
It's other than that, he's very predictable, but he'll mix in that one, you know, that one all in just to keep his opponents guessing, as any high level player has to do. He's not doing it here. He feels very confident playing stock, standard, and defensive against Clem.
Yeah, he should be really feeling it, man. He clearly is playing at an incredible speed. He's always been very good defensively, but the fact that he's
还是一样的，开把打法都差不多，
has really been impressive. Has actually caused Clem to tap out. Now the Hellions have joined up with the Reapers.
但这盘好像兴奋剂好像有点快啊，正常来说。
They can try and crowd control a little more with their grenades. A little more fearsome, a little bit extra DPS against the Queen. It is something to consider as a second hit squad alongside the upcoming medevac drop as they are on the way. Stim's going to finish. Combat shields will begin. Not the greediest build a Terran can do. Third CC was a little bit later, and the engineering bay is also a little bit later. But Solar has once again opted for the faster.
5分钟兴奋剂就好了。 还是5分半钟2传兵过来的，他应该是要带那波火车强压你的女王，调整了一下运营方式。
但说了，赌爆虫草已经好了，变成4个赌爆，问题不大。也看到
也看到2传兵就没问题了。
对，这房子还起到关键性的作用。
Kinda, yeah, a little bit, you know. One more is already on the way. Baneling speed does begin as a couple of Banelings are also forming. We do have a scan into the natural until I guess there was a gap from the Reapers pulling back and the drops reappearing.
远映雪32167的火箭，感谢兄弟。
感谢兄弟啊
！Now double medevac into the main. Spores are not ready to go quite yet, and while not even being produced, nothing in fact up here except that one queen right now.
Ooh, good pullback though. Doesn't lose even 1 drone just yet. The Zerglings, well, Banelings
连撸不敢连啊，不敢连，连不动这个地方。
这种连不了，连不了。
He's getting some value. Oh, he's continuing in.
Wow, that's actually a really bold move.
哎呀，火车回不去了。
我怎么感觉克莱姆要没了？这么打。双线强行来啊，没打到东西。
Yeah, the Queens were blocking them, which is why they couldn't get out. I think he would have turned around and left, but they were blocking the ramp, so he hung around, he got a few more drones.
这个双线就是为了打双线而打双线，没有必要。
So I think it kind of ends up settling and not being a crazy advantage for either side.
Yeah, I say far more damage if it's 10, 15, 20 drones. I mean, it was 4 compared to none.
Yeah.
So, you know, actually ended up being a good defense. I'm just surprised that Clem wasn't.
哎，看到了这个地雷立功啊！
Yeah, okay, that happens.
地雷大功。
Actually, even leading into the natural was a bold move that didn't really pay off. Could have been Hellbats now included with the armory on the way. Actually, a little bit late.
你们猜到？
哎呀，
可以。
Nice, wouldn't mind to take down any Baneling roll buys. Not going to be a concern for Clem.
后来还是4个狗毒爆。
He has now added on his extra barracks. No fourth command center quite yet. One we're going to finish up as his army now moves to the south.
A fourth command center that wasn't there does start up just after you said it, as if you summoned it into existence, Zombie Grub. And it looks like there will be a progression, but right now, Army's ahead for Clem. He's got a good push. Solar's kind of in this position where he's just built 10 to 15 drones in the last minute.
今天Solar赢了也还可以，说实话。对啊，赢了真的赢得不错，没怎么中过特别夸张的。
Clem 的这打法其实地雷很精髓，就是多线节奏起来之后，你要中地雷的，然后你中地雷我就不断的在战准上扩大优势。那今天说来真的没怎么中啊？
哎？啊？
为什么
怎么了
？Absolutely must be Solar finally getting that pause. His keyboard might have stopped working on.
他键盘出问题了，我估计是。他应该是键盘出问题了。刚才不然的话，他觉得他女王可能不会死。
对，
应该是键盘坏了。还是什么情况？
那怎么说？是读 replay 还是就这样开？
肯定就这样开啊！这怎么可能读 replay 啊？不会读 replay 的，这个不会读 replay 的。你信我，不会有裁判会说读 replay 的。
那这个很影响心情啊！我感谢一下，
感谢 Mars 瑶6399的飞机，感谢兄弟，
感谢兄弟啊！
这不会读 replay 的，又不是官方的机器出问题了，是你键盘自己失灵了一下。而且你现在键盘还是好的，他妈的就失灵了一下，你非要说是键盘失灵的，那妈的这个也不认的呀。
But yeah, they will have to. I mean, hopefully fix whatever
是不是嘛？
it is if it's not already fixed. But then actually
是的，
probably have to start a recover from replay.
这个其实就是 Solar 他可能会提，就是说我要读 replay， 然后 Clem 同意不同意 ？Clem 如果同意，估计也能读；他不同意，估计就继续打，是不是嘛？这东西。
Different games over the years where players have had huge arguments over this. Where the other player says, no way, like that, there's no proof that they didn't do this, and from this point, or, you know, there's a lot of contesting and a lot of fighting and jockeying for advantage. I can guarantee you when Clem is the opponent,
键盘这个东西，我们看看啥牌子的呀？避个雷呀，大家。
突然出问题了，这个，
而且就出了一下，他其实马上又能按了。
That's fine. He's ridiculously
就出了一下问题。
And for him, I don't think he ever wants to take an advantage for free or anything like that. He always just, you know, is there for the love of the game.
Yeah, he's definitely given like a server priority away, you know, in some of the qualifiers.
好了，
He's
已经
personally
好了。
messaged commentators after accidentally leading them out of lobbies.
Yeah.
Like, he's extremely nice. So, but I do think that basically all the competitors here would do something similar. And, you know, it is just about making sure that you get as fair as possible, right? So Clem actually even wondering what happens, you know, because he also probably wants to determine exactly where they are going to start, and so we'll see if he has anything to add, but I do really doubt it. The recovery from replay is happening, by the way, guys. It was just too pivotal a moment, and it also
对，他是可以选择不同意的，就继续打就好了。你们键盘出问题跟我又没关系。
是，我现在劣，而且他妈的比分落后，对吧？
对呀。
Of course, if you don't know what happens, if the last time you watched StarCraft 2 was 2012 and they were shouting, we want land, we will be able to get back into the game and no one can see what was going on up to that point. Obviously, we need a little bit of time, guys, so hold on while we take
英文解说说是 Windows 出问题了 ，Windows 谈更新，那就要读 replay 了，那只能读 replay 了，这个是他们系统。
那读了。
那读 replay 了，他们系统跳更新，那肯定要读 replay 了。那这没救了，这个 Windows 跳更新，那你只能读 replay 了。 感谢球在我人生一片黑暗的一个飞机，感谢兄弟。啊，不会，这是个转折点吧。
应该转不了一点，好吧？这个
他妈的回来，Solar状态全无，直接被打爆。
哎，不可能，不可能。
正版系统受害者，真的。不 ，Windows 现在真的越做越不行。真的，你妈微软不知道请的啥程序员，你妈越写 bug 越多。然后这个 Win12的概念版我还看了一下，他不是经常看到那种什么 Win12的概念版，越来越像苹果的系统，国里国气的。
现在 Win10能用就可以了，不要跟我说 Win12的事情。根本就不想听 Win12的事情，好吧？
以后只会越来越难。印度来的那些人都是关系户、拉帮结派的。
对，
这个也有可能的，就比如说他们那边，妈的肯定用自己来的那些兄弟可能靠谱一点呀、就熟一点嘛。
那肯定啊，
有可能的，有可能。当你公司有一个印度人是高管之后，就马上会有一大群印度人，这你妈真的假的？
你们这都知道啊？
这个我就不是很了解。真的。
他们你妈的恢复 replay 有那么慢吗？我靠！
不知道呀。我主要今天下午没怎么睡，今天下午我儿子都还没好，就下午在照顾带我儿子，就没怎么睡。
那你老婆在干嘛呢？带你儿子？
我老婆在，今天她在洗衣服什么的还是什么？那我下午在带我儿子就没有怎么睡。
衣服不应该就是妈的洗衣机里面扔着就好了吗？
那肯定他在忙事儿嘛。马西西说我是个吸血鬼，我他妈吸了什么血？我操！
这个他妈怎么那么像原神啊！我靠，还是我
不知道呀。他要等那个机器更新完吗？不会吧？哦，回来了吧？回来了，就读了 replay 了吗？
应该
好像读了，好像读了。
读了，就这波。
啊，读了，就这波，就哎没读啊，女王死了呀，没读。没有毒啊，女王
没毒，他他妈的，没毒，他他妈的搞那么。
感谢西湖雅座的5个飞机，感谢兄弟，
感谢兄弟啊！
是读了吗？解说读了吗？有可能吧。感谢西湖雅座的火箭，是西湖雅座的吗？别送了，别送了！
西湖雅座，别送了，真别送！
哇，失误了，克莱姆。别送
了，
这个
大到一个。
这个时候就看看比赛就好了，别送了。
说到现在防守起来有点难啊，这军团被上面的军团被清的有点多了。不过攻防说拉是领先的，这两方好了，其实这小狗还是有点硬的。
说了又进入这种慢慢翻盘的这种节奏了。
又点了。你妈这毒霸进不了身是吧？这压力好大，这面。两边压力都很大，妈的两线压力都很大。
继续甩。我怎么感觉我被我儿子传染了？我靠，鼻子一直在塞。不会明天发烧吧？
过年发烧也是好事。
地雷，
没让到太多，还行。但这个人口差的有点多啊，差快50人口了。And then the Widow Mines start getting big hits because the Zerg has to clump up more. As they clump up more, the Widow Mines get big hits. If you don't clump up,
有点gun
you down. There's a drop in the north. 对，毒爆进不了身，毒爆永远都是过去的时候就被点。
我儿子应该不烧了，他烧了1天多。他是细菌感染嘛，然后吃了医生开的药，医生说要吃满5天。真的，我跟你说了，这种他妈的气势如虹的时候，暂停一下，Solar没得一逼。
compared to the last games. These are almost desperation.
Zero 气的一批。
hoping that it puts the brakes on Clem.
哇
There's no banelings left. There's so few. There are only like 2 or 3 stuck in the back. Hydras are fragile, expensive units. Zombie grub, and they're taking a lot of damage.
第一次出来了，终于可以把这边
缓口气，
这
缓口气，
这
第一次出来就缓口气。
对，太关键了，这第一次出来。
But of course, Clem will keep going. His 3-3 starts. Behind this, he clears all the creep in the center of the map, and he's got a new army coming.
但是妈的，他如果真的该拉你，也拉了，我靠！
克莱姆拿到了牛牛哥哥去年的剧本，好像有点像啊。小组最后一轮，妈的，靠什么小分出现？
不像。为什么？现在的问题是，前面还有一个 Zero 这座大山，你妈挡着我。
对呀，去年妈牛牛哥哥前面全是大山，好吧？ 不都被他斩了吗？是不是道理？是不是这个道理？
只是没碰到 Zero。
今年妈的先斩 Zero， 再斩大可，最后你妈的决赛又把马如打死。马如又被打个4比1，那不是马如他妈的一口血吐出来了。
Solar shutting down the drop in the north. He's stabilized really well considering the position he's been in. He's almost maxed out. His +3 carry base getting very close. But these Marauders
这一线压力也很大，这一线
efficiency to this army.
漂亮，这个引雷。
但是克莱姆可不止0.3级，这你妈这倒是啊！
哎，虫洞第4了，这一波如果能够节奏抢下来的话，不好说。我靠，他这个引雷引的今天真的有点好，
有点好，今天他引雷真的好。 一直被发现，
不过节奏控下来了已经。把地雷全部清了。这打回来了呀！不说别的，没那么烈，现在。
那倒是。
From down 2 to 1 in the units lost to only a few thousand difference between them. Solar's fighting incredibly well from behind. Clem, though, has built about 5 extra command centers. He's already on 6 bases. He's got 5 more orbitals coming in the near future. I mean, he's just got a crazy amount of income. I have noticed, though, it is interesting. The moment the Niduses start popping, feels like the first 1 or 2 Niduses kind of panic Clem a little bit because of how instrumental they've been in Solar's success this series. When he sees those Niduses, he seems to kind of drop what he's doing at the front and almost panic a little with focusing them down.
第次强行趴，这个是不是过了？哇靠！
is really getting more than just one thing on the other side of the map. The Nidus Worm that was eventually taken down, but now some lurkers that are causing problems. The attack also could have swung the other direction on the top side, as Solar might have saw an opportunity. He did not. He does pull back. He's going to wait for those lurkers to also have their additional upgrades. So the ones on the south taken care of eventually.
这盘明显就是说了，前面被压着打之后，他军坦没铺开来，没那么好打，对吧？ 哎呦，这2个引雷引的可以。
Quite a few medevacs fall there. Nice play for Solar. I like that he's not overextending. The fact that he's holding his own against Clem in this game is very impressive. But of course, Clem has a lot of room to breathe. Triple Widow Mine drop going across on the south. So many command centers. They just keep getting built. And Clem is continuing to build.
Solar 稳住了呀，感觉。
He's got the advantage. Solar is going to need to dig deep.
未必吧。
至少比刚才好很多。
This is actually kind of the opposite scenario here. The Zerg is usually the one that you can feel that they're getting ahead, even though the supplies remain kind of similar. The banks look okay because they have the hatcheries all over the place. They have the creep spread all over the place. They have their run-by set up all over the place. No, it's the Terran that does it now. They're the ones that expanded on location with way too many bases, but of course very on point actually in today's meta.
现在对于Solar来说需要那个兵种啊。
He eventually is going to win, but actually defeating Solar is still another question. He is going to hold on as long as possible. With another base coming to the bottom left, Solar is trying to get his own economy up and running, but Clem is the one building the bank.
Clem with the majority of income advantage over the last 10 minutes of this game. He's got Cloak on the way for his Ghosts, Advanced Ballistics. That is the Liberator range upgrade. Trying to defend bases in all corners. Is the Planetary behind this? It should be.
Yes, I think so. Yep.
EMP 打得很好的 EMP， 基本上都打到了。
Because this is going to be difficult to defend all the bases as a Terran. They are still overall the less mobile race, although Clem doesn't really make it look like it. So the planetary is going to be instrumental for small packets of units to defend if the other units.
努力要回来守，不然的话这个矿要掉。
On Solar side, he could have a little too few as far as the units to defend this space. So now
感觉这块掉了。
the drones will go down. The reinforcing links.
这狗都他妈填海啊！这狗。
And this is how Clem kills a hat-trick.
没掉还行。
He's actually going to skedaddle. The scan revealed the rest of the army coming.
又开始两线拉了，
还是一样两线拉。
Are doing a great job helping Solar defend.
哎，
我
看到。
Solar to trickle his units in and just bleed them dry. I feel like every time Solar's army kind of comes in a line like this, the Bio guns down the front units very efficiently before picking up and pulling back. Great Widowmine hit as well behind it. Turrets taking out Overseers. The Nidus Worm, I think, got shut down behind this. There's so much going on though, it's hard to keep track of everything. Looks like indeed that Nidus Worm went down. Only 7 SCVs falling on the defense for Clem. And he, of course, has got so much money. He's sniping so many units every time as well.
这是这个科技是这个运输机的能量回复。
My goodness. Still dealing with the Nidus Worms as well. A couple of SCVs did go down, but that still means Clem is at 79. So I think he's okay. He's going to
Solar还是有点挡不住，扛不住了。这军坦不好。
that are usually an addition at this point in time. There we go. Exactly that. They'll go for harassment. They'll draw the line on the sand on the offensive. Maybe they won't even have to if the Marines and Ghosts can stand their ground. Oh, Vipers, hello. What were you doing?
Getting caught out there. There's so much going on. Solar, of course, losing track of his Vipers in the midst of it. Finally, Infestors are being added, and not a moment too soon. Solar is on the ropes. He's out of bank. He can't.
妈的，又开始多线虫洞了。这个多线虫洞其实以前比赛也有，但是没有那么频繁嘛。Solar 现在感觉就很认真，这种多线虫洞各种。
对，这样的多线虫洞不是说要干嘛，就是让你多管一些。如果你不管的话，我的兵再出来。
Things have been able to slow
down
a little, but it's just such a different pace. Clem is not all over the place, clearly struggling and suffocating. Now he's able to get to that point where he can be the attacker, he can be the aggressor, he can be the macro, he can also be the scanner. No longer needing to desperately mule drop because all the SCVs are dead. He's scanning every which way.
克莱姆上面也动了。
哎呦，上面有第四，倒不怕。哎，这。
Clem forced to completely flee to his third base, losing some SCVs.
妈从自己的矿打到把克莱姆，
这你妈！那关键是克莱姆在防守的同时，右边在进攻啊，这个是很夸张的。
第一次都没守住，刚才鬼兵有点多。
For screen after screen because there's no creep spread. 2 of the 3 infestors already got taken down. There is a 15,000 resource loss.
第一发，我靠，这把地
会掉吗？哎呦！哎，还好，就掉了一船。妈呀，3船都掉了，克莱姆人都呆住了。
克莱姆钱多，你看Solar已经没钱了。
对，哎，不过这盘本来就很烈，刚刚。
7,000 mineral bank right now for Clem, and I think the only reason they doesn't have gas. Actually, no, he does have all of his gas.
那么多地方，
冲毒仙剑阵是不是有点过了？
Yeah. But Ghost and Liberators, Widowmines and Medivacs are still important, so that is maybe a limiting factor. But let's be real.
妈有7000块钱。老子不信Solar能把7000块钱打干。我靠，这个狙击狙了2个，哎呀，但不过没关系啊。哎，这Solar什么情况？这你妈怎么埋地了？
操作失误。
哎，真的，我跟你说，这种他妈气势如虹的时候，这妈断一下气势。Solar没了呀，真的就是没。这他妈8000块钱，钱越打越多。
可以打，
真的是个没逼。不是键盘，不是键盘，它是那个 Windows 更新的。你看Solar现在表情，肯定气得一批。真的很气，你妈了个鸡的这种断气势。
to the round of 8 and face Serral, and who has to say goodbye today.
招黑体有点美。
要休息会儿吗？
请神去了呀，这不就很像李培南那天请神。
It is one of these series where what a crazy back and forth it's been. I mean, Clem snatching game 1, I thought may have been the start of a runaway train, but of course Solar fighting back so hard.
2-2，好他妈激烈啊！打
It looked like things were about to go his way, but of course Slight Delta going there. We're going to be going to game 5 in just a moment. We'll be right back with the rest of the series.
这个是什么？
哎呀！
什么游戏的吗？
他们说原神
是圆的吗？这个是原神的吗？啊，为什么 IEM 的比赛会有原神的东西？
妈的，那可能有没有可能妈的原神很火呢？
他有可能原神到那边去做了个展台什么的吧？
对啊，但我说做了个展台会单独拍这段东西呢，
说明他赞助了呀。
啊，那也有可能。
我是不是看不起原神？我他妈何德何能，我能看不起原神？你他妈这也太他妈高估我了！我何德何能，兄弟？我配吗？再说米哈游还是我们赞助商，是我们爹。
是的呀。这什么？这他妈鹿特丹生日吗？
生日好像是。
这个蛋糕好像还可以啊，我哥，蛋糕。我好久没有吃这种生日蛋糕了。
当年找我们怎么没有合作？哎呀，当年他妈的年轻呐！
不行，明天他妈去订个蛋糕去吃，我靠，好久没有吃。
哎，哎，我真的觉得我鼻子好塞，感冒了。
有没有可能是你家里面有点冷呢？
不冷啊，我开地暖的，我冷个毛啊！
多喝点水。福卡，那你妈它不是那个吗？不是星穹铁道吗？我靠！
说明米哈游肯定赞助了，也有可能就是米哈游在这个地方摆了展台，他们这个卡多维兹肯定也是一个 肯定也是一个这种大的展会嘛，然后 cosplay 嘛。
这个是你们小狐狸吧？我靠，那个叫什么？那个小狐狸叫什么来着？
阿狸？
不是阿里，阿里个锤子阿里，那个小狐狸叫什么来着？
这不是阿里吗？这不是英雄联盟的吗？
我说的是你们星穹铁道的那个小狐狸。
那这个就是撸啊撸里面那个阿里啊。
是吗？
对呀，这就是阿里啊。
On the other hand, I mean, Clem's not really getting any value in his early mid game. Feels like he's getting stopped for the most part. Other than that last game, where obviously there were some extenuating circumstances, he's been
停云对的，叫停云那个星穹铁道里面那个小。
Right, but you can see what happens if he does. If Solar makes one little mistake, the cracks begin to show. Then Clem is going to be all over that. The last map will be Alsani, or however you want to pronounce it. It'll be our final battleground in this first round of 12, best of 5 TVZ. Clem and Solar delivering some of the best action we have seen in a while, and now it all comes down to this. Bottom left has the red Terran.
好了，来了，决胜局了。
It is Clem.
妈，这两个比把把都是那么拼，我靠！
And I truly believe he has the fortitude to get it done. It's game 5 in the top right, representing Vitality. Give it up for Solar! I think it's all about that mentality at this point.
2比2了，打得好，他们激烈啊这场。
We want build orders, Alcyon and how it plays out. Honestly, I think there's only one thing that matters with how they've played, and that's just going to be grit, determination, and the ability to stay calm under pressure.
They both have displayed great attributes in every aspect of StarCraft 2, including the mental game, you know? Like, even though Solar did not get the best game 4, he did end up losing it to take us right here. He did not at any point give up. Except when he had to point out that there was a
各种防野兵营啊，说了这个房子飞行的路线就是防野兵营的。
Trying every trick in the book to come back in a game that was absolutely Clem-sided. So even though he did let that game go, I'm not thinking about the momentum.
太不了解Clem，Clem 是一个不会放野兵营的选手，他永远不会放野兵营。因为放野兵营输了，Clem 会非常的后悔。
他是觉得他实力够强呀。
Basically, his screen kind of locked up, and he couldn't really do anything for.
没有必要放野兵营，就正常打。格莱美也用的有限的手段，而且逻辑的那个什么手段。
Solar, as it did seem like a lot of Widow mines had landed and stuff right before that, but it is what it is. And at this point, you find yourself in Game 5. You've both fought your hearts out. You got to both just clear the slate. Whatever's happened earlier in this series doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You have to just keep your eyes on the prize and stay in the moment. It's not about Serral. It's not about the round of 8.
先3开再狗数吗？
You just have to focus on
他这农民什么意思啊？这绕一圈什么意思啊？绕一圈再回这个3矿吗？那么飘逸的绕路啊！这他妈真的俄罗斯大旋转嘛？这绕那么大一个圈。
Clem is back to his old standard after a little brief deviation with the 2 racks. He goes back to the 3cc.
It's a good choice. The 3cc, it's given him a lot of value. He's very comfortable with it. And he makes it look rock solid as well. I've seen all-ins just crash into this 3cc defense like waves onto rocks, really making no visible impact. Clem has become so well-rounded at executing it. And likewise, Solar, protecting his creep tumors. You notice he put the first one very far back to make sure the Reaper couldn't get at it. And he's just calmly and methodically defending so far.
Almost got the Reaper earlier.
Clem
was able to escape that time. Anywhere close. This map
手
does
速
have
也
that
差不多吧，3
other
分
Reaper
半。
hop up that can be very annoying. Hellions on the way as the starport is looking to finish. Probably going to be, well, I say probably in a Banshees, but again, a single Liberator option is absolutely available, even though Solar did a wonderful job defending the very first map of the day. At a Hellions,
没有太多的机会啊。
but they hope are still slow lings. I wonder if that would happen again, but yet again, it is actually Solar with a well-timed ling speed. Although I don't see any lings
火车解放者，
6
哎
drones
呀
on the way, many more queens getting that solid set up. Okay, like literally 6 lings are there, but they are going to
啊，想进去吗？
这个有点过了吧？
哎，这小狗是农民，进去了。
还可以。 强行烧
2个，我靠，这算烧！
哎，4个，还杀了点狗，
有点伤，关键还拉那么长时间农民。
对，
下面再烧
6个了，
干嘛他还能够在下面烧吗？我不信。
哎呀，我真觉得 Solar 气势被打没了。
8个9个了，
真的是气势打没了。2线已经占到便宜了。
Solar has to go Super Saiyan now. This man needs to rebuild drones like a mad lad,
8 个
shut
站
down
的
the
又
lift,
解
shut
放
down
者
the future Hellions, and get that 4th base up. He has no more room for error in this early game because Clem has confidence. Clem is a real momentum-focused player, both physically but also mentally. If he starts getting ahead of you, he's going to try and get more ahead, and that's annoying.
哎，被阴了。感觉克莱姆越打越顺了，真的是越打越顺。索拉万没有想到，他竟然会被因为 Windows 更新，你妈的把气势打乱。
不懂就是衰，我跟你说，那没什么办法。
All emphasis on Clem's micro and whether or not he once again escapes into that natural, slips on by the Lings. So far, so good on the follow-up defense.
Solar 的确是有实力的，这个大家都承认。但是他妈的运气也是实力的一部分呀！我操，
真的没。
Solar now moving the drone out to take the 4th base. He's going to have to get that up. But of course, being stuck on even workers with a Terran whose 3rd is already landed, Solar will be playing this game from a rather large deficit.
Very concerning, actually. I mean, I'm not the one playing, but I already kind of got like a pit in my gut here as I think about Solar's situation. Yeah, always so tempting. But you know what I really like is that Clem might also be very aware that he needs to keep these alive for a scout, right? Because he didn't know exactly what was going on. It's becoming more and more evident, of course, that it was a game that scanned just to feel the exact intentions, the evolution chambers first in this game compared to the last 2. But the Hellions, the temptation to dive multiple times was absolutely there, but they were deflected, or they decided to be wise about it and not go for it. And now they can also join up with the main army once the armory is done. They'll be especially helpful.
Clem's only behind a few workers, and he's got momentum on his side. 1-1's on the way. Second factor.
乱了！
真觉得他气势真的没了，已经。反而是克莱姆越打越顺。
克莱姆真的运气有点好啊！这场打Solar是这样，妈的还打一场邦尼。
打邦尼也是啊，邦尼忘记造这个盾牌，他妈逃过一劫。
这样，
妈的，真他妈天选之人是吧？
有点李平南的味道了啊！
跟李平南一样，突然一下所有人都降智了。感觉要接死了呀！这波Solar会不会砸键盘啊？这盘输，他妈这挡不住了呀！正面已经来了，这盘压力巨大，人口领先20。他妈读报速度都没有，读报速度还有很久哎，还有20秒至少。这他妈不被操作傻，直接冲了，没办法了，中颗雷，2颗满中，这你妈，这咋办？
还打个屁呀！
好没呀，兄弟！左边也空投了。啊，Solar
专注就下来了，专注下来了，这个是。
是啊，跟你说就那口气断了。那口气断的太伤了。哎呦，没撞到。
还没达到，我靠！
人口已经落后40了，克莱姆不会给他机会，就一直滚雪球。来都来了，不如吃发核弹再积极吧？你妈，你们是不是？
你们这些狗逼，我靠！哇靠！没了
呀！哦呦，这怎么办？这他妈气势越打越弱，诸葛连弩开始了呀！他妈的节奏提得飞起来。读了 replay 的刚刚，但是气势断了。没了，GG 了。妈，克莱姆估计要跳起来庆祝了。
他绝对要
GG！哇靠，好兴奋！真的，这个 Windows 更新了一下，太他妈影响大了。就自从之后这个更新完了回来之后，Solar就感觉变了个人一样，
泄气了，你知道吗？
对呀，就是这个气势没了。Solar你妈脸都歪了，这他妈能输？
也没什么话好说，这个运气也是实力的一部分。说个
真的太他妈没了。这种真的断气势太伤了。把 Zero 气的脚发抖。妈拉个鸡的！明天第一场就是 Zero 打 Clem， 真的气得脚发抖。今天我们再转一场啊，转一场那个大可对 Kulos， 转完就休息了。再转一，后面2场就算了，后面2场估计要打完，估计都要到晚上4点多才开始了。
主要你妈的这一场打得太久了，
对，这场太激烈了，这场。而且我有点生病，我一会儿去吃个药。感觉被我儿子传染了，我操了。吃个药。场间打盘风暴之门，放个12D。风暴之门好像他们还在搞比赛，你知道吗？1万刀。
我知道呀，欧洲的一个比赛。
对啊，现在这个版本他们就开始搞比赛了，真他妈牛逼。1万刀的比赛啊！我去参加，那不被打出翔。